So I want us to understand some difference between analog and IP CCTV system. This has been a common question asked here and there, and I just want to demystify. I'll do a projection on this IFPD. Of course, you know about the HIKVISION IFPD, so I can do a wireless share from my PC like that, and I should be able to duplicate what is on my desktop. So first things first, you need HIK Partner Pro. If you don't have, just scan the code, scan the QR code, and have HIK Partner Pro. Or just use the invitation code and have HIK Partner Pro. Next to it, I'm doing reverse sharing, so I can project. So if you don't have HIK Partner Pro, you can download. For the end user, you need HIK-Connect, just download. For the installer and partner, get HIK Partner Pro. But my focus today is here. So we have two types of CCTV systems, analog CCTV system, and next to it is the IP CCTV system. Before I finish, I want you to understand the difference between these two. So I'll pull my pen, see if it's okay. So after pulling my pen, I want to first explain, we call it the front end. The front end. So on this front end, we have the cameras. I can change my pen color so that it looks different. So I'll be using a green pen instead. So on the front end, here we have the cameras. And these cameras would have options like mic, siren. They would have things like red and blue light. Those are just some ideas you'll get from HIKVISION cameras or any other camera. But in an analog system, this camera only has one function, mainly to capture. Just capture. Another thing you'll note, there is a direct power supply to the camera because the camera cannot be powered through the network or through the coaxial, though we have a version called POC. POC, that is power over coaxial, where the coaxial cable can power the camera. But in most cases, we get the power supply to power the camera. The next thing is the video is transmitted directly to the DVR. Let me explain. So the camera is only doing one thing, capturing. But we need to convert that video into data so that we can record, we can transmit it remotely or anywhere else, right? So that's why we get now the DVR. So the DVR, the first thing it will do is encode. Encode is to convert the video signal into data. Then the second thing it will do is compress. The order of that may vary, but that is the idea. The third thing it will do is record. You see, in an analog system, the DVR is doing more. While, of course, when you have a display like this, we have to decode. Decoding is now converting of the recorded data back to video. That is the idea of decoding. So you see, the DVR is doing three things, okay? Then another thing, because you want to get your system online, you want to get your system in an environment where it can be seen, even when you're not home, you can see, because the monitor limits you to monitoring at home. So you get a router or put it to a network via network cable. Of course, the DVR would have a LAN port. Then with that LAN port, it goes online and then you can see on mobile app. That is HIK-Connect and HIK Partner Pro. Very smart, right? Yeah, so this is what you can do with your DVR. So let's just understand in simple terms. Video, the camera will do capturing, then transmit video to the DVR, which will encode compress, and record our footage, right? Then now from the recording, we upgrade to the next part where you can view via HDMI or VGA or connect to your mobile signal and access it via the phone. I think it's pretty clear, right? That is for analog system, analog CCTV system. Very relevant in the market, very reliable. Again, in terms of cost, this is super cost friendly compared to the other solutions. Then now, let's look at the next one, which is the IP CCTV system. So in an IP CCTV system, you'll realize some additional. I have a camera here. I have another camera here. Then what else do we introduce? We introduce a switch. Switch. Why do we introduce a switch? It's because this camera can be directly connected to the NVR, Network Video Recorder. This NVR has PoE ports. These PoE ports will power the camera. So the port will do two things: power, at the same time transmit data. You see what we get here is no longer video, it is actually data. Zeros and ones. If you know about computer language interpretation and all that, you know data is transmitted in form of zeros and ones, though it is a network packet and all that. So that's another class that we can do to understand. Then the other part, so in an IP system, whether it's this or that, the camera will first capture. The second thing, the camera will encode. The third thing, the camera will compress. So that is how now we make a data. That's the process. Then on the NVR will do one job, which is record. Then it will output to the display by decode. Decoding to display, converting that data. So you see, in an IP system, it's more sophisticated. We can directly connect to the DVR or we can connect to the switch. This is a PoE switch, power over Ethernet. So it will power the camera and then we get the network signal to the LAN port of the NVR and then we have it on display. Again, I can introduce a router. Of course, HIKVISION has routers. I can introduce a router and connect it to the switch. Connect the router to the switch. Then once I connect that, I can access it via mobile app, that is HIK-Connect and HPP, HIK Partner Pro. Very smart solutions, just more innovative. So when you talk about expansivity, how big this solution can be, an analog system, I will get a 4-channel DVR, I will get an 8-channel DVR, I'll get a 16-channel, I'll get a 32-channel. At most, in my experience, that has been the most that we've gotten. Whereas, in an IP system, the NVR, we have, again, 2 types. PoE, actually 3. Half PoE, oh, this is full PoE. Full PoE, half PoE, and non-PoE. It's just more of how the NVR can power the cameras. So we have NVRs with variations from 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256 channels. You see that variation, the total number of channels that you would get in your system. I'm experiencing a power issue, but as long as you can still see this. So you'll see this could be 4 PoE, 4-channel, 4 PoE, or just 4-channel without PoE. We have 8-channel, 16, 32, 16. So 8 will have 8 PoE, 16 would have 16 PoE or 8 PoE. 32-channel would have 16 PoE in most cases. 64-channel would have 16 PoE. 128 most of the time is non-PoE. 256 also non-PoE. So it depends with what are you looking for. In my recommendation, when you're going for the higher channels, like you're going for 64, 128, Just get non-PoE, then use switches. Of course, again, switches, we have them 4, 8, 16, 30, 16, 24, 48. It depends the expansivity. Then you can link switch to switch, switch to switch, like that. I believe by now you already understand the difference between an analog system and an IP system. If you don't, just reverse the video and you'll see. So this is an idea I'm selling out or pushing out. Let's understand what is the difference, but the benefits of each system. Of course, in terms of cost, the IP system is more pricey, but the value you will get from this is much, much more sophisticated, and the expansivity or the future growth projection is much better in the IP system compared to the analog system. So I believe that with that, you can easily get the gist of what is the difference between analog and network system.